God writes straight through crooked lines. No, I know it's just for the recording. I'm not. Thank you. It's just for the recording online. I want to present you our 4 speakers and their testimony that will share with us their testimonials. I'll begin, and you can walk while I Maria João and Gonçalo Archer. They, wherever you like. They have been married for 37 years and have 5 children. One of them is Zé. Hi, Zé. and you can see the rest of their family and grandchildren. They're 11 grandchildren. Well, it'll be 11. In 1995, they went with their 4 children, ages between 3 and 8, to Mozambique as a volunteer for a year. And they are involved in several groups of Christian families and marriage preparation courses, as well as part of another volunteer project at Casa do Gaiato in Lisbon. Then I want to present Mariana Travassos. Her life reflects a constant search where transformation and questioning constantly reveals a new path, often contradictory. Mariana's life is full of travels, inside and out, and she has passed through 7 countries, often involved in various humanitarian work organizations. She was a part of a female congregation for a brief period, and currently she lives in Lisbon, deeply passionate about her work psychology. And I want to present Duarte Fonseca. Duarte was born in Porto, where he graduated occupational therapy. He worked has an innovational consultant in a successful Portuguese tech startup. Wow. But later on, Duarte joined Just a Change, a social entrepreneurship initiative that focuses on ending housing poverty in Portugal. It's a really amazing initiative. And he's currently director of Reshape, whose mission is to ensure and dignify reinsertion of all prisoners. Unfortunately, we will not have Father João Galão because he's going through a hard time in terms of health. So I'll ask you for remembering him in your personal prayers. But we'll have also Julia. Are you Julia? Father John. Her soul, oh my God. You have our dear Julia to do the moderation. Oh my God. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. So yes, as I asked you first to project as much as you can. It's not the same as shouting, it's a different skill. So yes, thank you, first of all, for being here. And well, this is actually the first time we're doing it in Pietraviva, so it's a bit strange, to be honest. And what we're going to try to do today, since this is, you know, one of the last things we're doing in this meeting, so it's an important moment because it's probably one of the things that the people here will remember the most. Okay, no pressure, basically. Yeah, exactly. So, I was never very good at pep talks, you know. So, but actually, usually in these formation meetings, we invite high-level people, experts, academic scholars to almost give us intellectual content. And I hope I'm not saying anything offensive. My God, but I am ruining it. No, but it's important. It's important until we get into the heart, okay? But what we are asking of you is actually your stories, your stories, nothing too high level. And I think, okay, your stories are very profound. Anyway, oh, I'm really messing this up. I didn't prepare very well. Yeah. No, so, but as living stones, what, Ricardo? Sorry. But as living stones, this is what we can relate to the most, because we just say stories in the hope that the stories we say in the churches, in these pictures that many do not understand or need some guidance to understand, in saying these stories, we recognize our own story. So our hope here is that listening to also your stories that is related to this big theme of vocation, that maybe we can start to connect all these dots and see ourselves in your own story. So just relax, okay? Because if what you share with us is coming from the heart, not from the mind, that will really stay. And I think it can be very powerful as a. So one of the things I was actually going to ask you to do in the beginning is to say who you are, naming. One of the things we mentioned yesterday with Father Nelson was to give a name. So we say our names, but in saying our names is also a bit to say who we are. And to be able to say who we are already means that we're on the path, no, somewhere. We're not completely lost. So as I mean, I don't know which way to start, maybe from Gonzalo. Perhaps you can, all of us actually, say just who we are, our name again, and just something particular about you, okay? Just, I hope it's not too difficult, huh? Because we have problems with it. So, yes. Oh, sorry, okay.
Okay, my name is Gonçalo. I was born in Oporto 63 years ago. And one particular thing, I like to take photos because God always surprises with the marvelous things that we have.
My name is Maria João. People call me João, but it's a boy's name, so I have to say Maria João when I introduce myself, but you can call me João if you doesn't matter. I'm mostly a wife and a mother. I teach also. I have students and I like to teach, but I'm mostly a wife and a mother.
So hello, my name is Mariana. I was not expecting for this question.
So I gave them prompts, but maybe we won't stick to the path.
Perfect, it's good. What comes, it comes. The first thing that came into my heart, mind, body was the seeking process. So the continually seeking questions inside, traveling. This is what I have for you.
So I'm Duarte, I'm 33. I'm from Porto as well. So Gonçalo is an amazing person. No, actually, we have met. I'm friend of their sons, and we have met for a long time and period, and they are really a truly example. So the pressure is quite big because of your words, but also because we are sharing this with them. And so I'm married. I have 2 kids. One particular thing. So I work with prisons, and I really feel in peace when I'm inside prisons.
Wow. Okay. A bit louder. Okay. Okay. All right. So thank you for this particularity and for being, adapting to my questions, which are not exactly as the ones I suggested to you in the email. So yes, one other thing we actually talked about yesterday was that how we define ourselves by the things we do. In fact, photography, mother, traveling, working in prisons, etc., etc. Things we do. Perhaps it's the easiest way to define who we are by what we do. But one of the things Father Nelson said was, it's not what we do, but to be, being in this world. So I'm curious to hear if, like, just thinking about your lives, if there was a time, now looking back, perhaps it's clearer, that kind of deepened what it means for you to be in this world. Is it a big question? It's a big question. Like, but so from doing to being, it's like one of the workshops was also about being your truest and deepest self, So to look at the things we do in a way that help us understand what it means to be in this world. So is there, we don't need to follow this system. If it's you already think of something, you can just share it, and maybe give some context to this, because we don't know your stories. We don't know your lives. So, oof, I think I should have prepared them a bit more. Huh? So
a very difficult question to answer. And I think we need all our lives to be able to answer that question. Usually we think that we have to do many things to prove that we are useful people, that we are here in the world with a purpose, and that we, I don't know, when we try to think back, what did we do? What we do? What legacy do we leave? Is the world a world a little bit different because we lived in it? That's what we want to ask. But really, the most important thing is love. That's what Mother Teresa always said. Love is the legacy you give. It doesn't matter if you do very important things or very, I don't know, very special things, but you have to do them with love. And I think it was Henry Nouwen. I don't know if you read some. He said that he was a priest, and he was very cultured, and he gave lots of conferences.
Like this
And
one?
and he will have a call later in his life to go to the arch. I don't know if you ever heard the arch with handicapped
disabled people,
people.
people who need special needs.
And he said that when he went there, and he had to live with a boy, 30-year-old boy named Adam, who couldn't speak, who couldn't get dressed. He had to help him do everything. And he said that he was the one who showed him God. And living in the arch for 10 years, that's where he learned about God. He who had been so important all his life, and he understood that it was not the things he did, it was how he loved. And he learned how to love with these people who are
Va
disabled.
bene, Paolina.
And we have a lot
Ok. A presto.
from that.
So yeah, but I have a counter question. So if you apply that thing that you just said, that it's about love, in your own life, when did, how at least was that expressed in your own life? I mean, you mentioned the marriage, no, so long. So how does that take shape in your relation, in your children? Because many of us here actually perhaps don't know the reality of marriage, or perhaps are thinking about it. So it could be very helpful to hear what you have to say.
Okay, Jesus tell us a new commandment: love each other like I love you. As Maria told, it was the most important thing, and if we try to put that in practice, maybe we have a legacy. Okay, and marriage, it's put these words in practice, and so you have to practice every day. And also Jesus said there was no more love then give the life from to my English is horrible. When we prepare this, usually you say, okay, it's the Holy Spirit that speaks, and then I heard a voice. I don't know English, so I try to teach the Holy Spirit a little bit of English. So if something you don't understand is not his fault, okay? But okay, and marriage is like this. We give our life to the other, and then to the kids. Hello, and we can do this in work and with friends. So
Yeah, I think that love, um, that's why I understood that I had a vocation of marriage, because I thought that loving Gonçalo and then loving our children, it came later, of course, but um, showed me the way to love other people. Because when we love someone, we, how do you say, the center of our life becomes that person, not ourselves. We learn to be not to be selfish. We learn to love the other more than we do ourselves, and that with a husband, but with the children even more, because we love our children more than we love ourselves. We do for them what we wouldn't do for ourselves. So, and I think that love for my family taught me to love the others, even those I don't even like. We learn to love other people and to do for them things that I think it's to love other people is to wish them well and to wish good things for them and to try and do them and help them and do those things. So I think that uh, when I realized that my vocation was through marriage, I understood that marrying Gonçalo would help me be a better Christian, and would help me to love each other, to love the other persons.
All right, thank you for that. Actually, I'll pass on to Duarte, because as a young parent, how do you see this? And also thinking, from what I understand about your your life, you are very active. You know, you're part of a reshape, so very entrepreneurial. No, so a lot of projects that require your time, your attention, your passion, your love, and dedication. So how has also marriage perhaps shifted a bit that for you, or maybe made it richer? I don't know.
Yeah, so we were talking before because we're saying now, oh, maybe you, Maria João was telling me, maybe you should talk about marriage because you are closer to them than us. But age-wise and in terms of time of marriage, of course, we have been married for 6 years now, and so it's closer, and we have passed for the decision to marriage like yesterday, and then what I was saying is probably people look to us as the same we are looking to them and them to our grandparents, and I think this is normal that we always look to the outside and try to understand how can I apply those same principles to my own life or to my own decisions. And being a young parent or a young marriage as well, and looking to this, I really think our vocation, Isabel and mine, is to make the other happy, and I really believe our all vocations are to be happy and leave the others happier when they leave our presence. And I really resonates with this, that I think the way to do it is through love, and loving the others with the way we are, and to present them. And for example, for me, Gonçalo is a good example of that, on the happiness that always show, and no one's become indifferent in their presence because of that. And so being ourselves to the others really resonates. In terms of entrepreneurship projects, works, whatever, is, I think, either is something we look as a family, even if the work is done by me and my time, or the family will be destroyed or the project will be destroyed, because the amount of time, the amount of energy we put in it and effort, it takes a lot from ourselves and from our marriage and from our house. And so I think I'm lucky to have Isabel that really looks to reshape into the project as their own as well. So if I work more, or if I need to travel more or spend more time in the office or don't be present, like last weekend, for example, we had the vacations on family with other friends. So we are going to Algarve, and like on Thursday for 3 days because we had a holiday. And then on Thursday, I told Isabel, like, I'm really underwater in terms of work. And her first reaction was, well, do you want to stay? It's fine, I will go with them. So I stayed for 3 days to work on weekend, and she went. And I know for her it's really difficult to stay with the two alone. So either is something we decide as a common project, or one of the projects being the family a project, or the entrepreneurial one will suffer. So I think I've gained with the marriage in terms of the project, because I have an extra support looking to this as their own vocation as well. So even my daughters, they don't know, but they are volunteers of Reshape because every time I'm not at home and I'm not dedicating my time to them, they are being volunteers. So I think either we look to this as a family, or it will be really difficult. Yeah, you see? No, but they are not my they are not my dog, but yeah, they agree.
They agree. They agree. At some point, you have to tell them, though.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, right. So we spoke a bit of this marriage as a commitment, right, and the full sharing of your lives, even the discomforts in a way. But I know that we also had a workshop where the theme of marriage came up as a very defining moment. It's like it's a commitment, no? It's a definition. It's a defining moment in the life. So it's like a checkpoint. But we also spoke about things being gradual when it comes to vocation. So things which seem to unfold over time and where they're not so defined, not so definite. So perhaps if we can't talk of marriage as a commitment, but what about when there aren't such defining moments, or when such defining moments don't go exactly as we planned or hoped that they would go? So how do you see this kind of balance or conflict maybe between a defining moment and certain, clear, and something which is not clear? Like what does this tell us about what does it ask of us, so for you in the marriage, it was clear that yes, loving the other person is what I am called to do at this point. But if there isn't something so clear, then what? How do we cope? Mariana, you mentioned your search. How does this play into perhaps the non-clarity of things, which I fully understand, by the way. Yes.
Thank God. I was with your first question also, but I think both of them can join. The doing and being, that's a big one. I think that's a big one. And I was thinking, because you didn't make that question before, and I was thinking, when was it that can you hear me? See? Mais ou menos. So, isto é muito difícil. It's very difficult, all of this, huh?
So many requests.
So I'm going to try to speak louder. So the question that she was bringing of the being and the doing, I think my life, like I told also, like when I wrote how can I present myself? It has a lot of doing things. So I went, yeah, I travel a lot. Then when I was, I think, so I studied psychology in Oporto, which is really good, north. Then I came back to the south, to Lisbon. And then I entered a congregation. So I went to a convent for more or less 2 years, 1 year and a half. Then I got out. Then I worked. Then I went to Guatemala. Then I did a lot in Guatemala. Then I came back. So it's full of movement, and that question of the being. When was it then that I understood that the being is the real thing? and the first thing that came, I think it was one of the most difficult moments of this journey, that I received that, that being. And it was when I was in that congregation, so in the convent, that I entered. And it was funny because I knew I really wanted to be a nun here. So it was right there. Imagine, it's really crazy. Now I'm curious. And I went there with this, well, it's super complex, all the story I cannot share with you, but it was this feeling like I really want to go there, and I really want to give my life. I really want to go inside, connect with this. And yeah, it worked out for 3 months, more or less, when I was there. And then suddenly it was not working out. I couldn't do anything. I needed to wake up at 6 a.m. to pray, and I couldn't. I just needed to stay asleep. Or I needed, I don't know, I needed to do things. I was just feeling everything was failing. I couldn't do it. And what did I did? I kind of like say to myself, you need to do it. This is the way. You need to do it. This is love. You should love. Go, go, go. Go and serve the others. I went, I couldn't. It was terrible. And eventually, and of course I'm making it more simple than it was. It was super complex. But I realized that I was fighting with myself to do. And I think what God really, or my experience in that place was exactly to understand that I'm the one demanding that from myself, and I am the one thinking that God will only love me if I something, if I do it, if I wake up, if I go to, well, everything. And a big moment was that realization that there's no condition. So unconditional love. We say this so many times, but we have no clue the power of this. Maybe I don't even, I shouldn't talk about you guys. I'm talking about myself. And this understanding that and just resting, I was terrible. And that moment that I realized that it was in the being and yeah, and feeling that love, that was a big moment that also I became to start the way of understanding that the calling was to get out of the convent after. But that was what I believe now that I look back, that God took my hand, said, Mariana, come here, put me there. And then to discover that, and that moment was the beginning of the journey also, to understand that my pathway was out in the sense of the external part of it, because inside I'm following the same. So I don't know, just make it that came.
It's very interesting what you're saying, and it's also fresh for us because yesterday during the mass and even this morning we were reflecting on the passage on the apparition of Jesus to the 7 disciples, and Father Jean-Paul made a comment yesterday about the failure, between inverted commas, of Peter, which was to, the ultimate betrayal. He of I do not know you. he said to Christ. And so that was the biggest failure that Peter could have done to his best friend. But that is precisely the place where then Jesus kind of presses on that wound, and it becomes the place of transformation. So it's very interesting what you're saying, that we read this in the pages of the Bible, but to hear it like you lived it, you lived it. And maybe this can also be, in a way, an invitation for all of us to think, but when was it for us, this moment? So something that all of you actually mentioned is this vulnerability that there is, be it in a marriage where you give yourself fully to the other, your vulnerability in that moment, and also yours, to be away from the family because the projects are requiring your attention. But even in the prisons, I assume you meet so many people who have been either wounded or who have wounded. And it's interesting that the word vulnerability also has the same root as wound, no? So how would you make this connection between to be vulnerable and this, what we are calling vocation? Can you make this link? Do you like that a place that can be a wound can become a place of flourishing, in a sense? Can you see it, be it in your relations? Because of course many times we present the best parts of ourselves, which is so, this is why what you just shared, Mariana, is so beautiful, because it's so difficult to share it, because it's being vulnerable. So in your good marriages, of course, can you can you perhaps, because I don't know, can you identify perhaps a wound that that was transformed into something beautiful? Again, it was not scripted. This is completely, so the silence might be a bit awkward, but it means you are thinking, I hope. So can you, it doesn't have to be a big wound, but even something small like a conflict. This is also because, living together is a big, exactly, even that. How do you resolve like a minor conflict? To be honest, I'm also asking these questions because I'm thinking of the Livingstones, because the conflicts and things which kind of are difficult for us to deal with are our realities as well, not just the people we take around and explain to them the pictures, because we're talking about the pictures, not about ourselves. But when we meet in our groups every week or every 2 weeks, we share about our life. And it's not easy to do it. So
I can maybe share. Well, for us, and it's still something that we need to continuously work on us and in our relationship and in our routine, but is to understand, and actually it was in a mass that we heard this, and this really resonates on us, and it was from there that we started to speak more about it. But marriage and the way we leave the house, it's not math. So it's not you give one and I give one, you give two and I give two. The same with the money, the common money, or the same with the tasks at home, etc. So because if we live so this is for us, okay? So I know couples that this works quite well, so I don't think there is one magical formula for all couples, but for us it was really important to understand that and to live in peace with that decision, that sometimes Isabel will do more tasks in terms of the house, I will do maybe in terms of the children. Sometimes it will be an entire week, and it's fine. And it's not like, okay, next week it's you. No, it's next week it will be whoever has more availability. And it was really interesting to understand, like, and we always, sometimes when we are in peace, we can play with it. And sede o mais virtuoso. How
Most virtuous.
Yeah, who gives is the most virtuous. Uh, so sometimes, let's say Isabel gives more and I'm more down, and says I'm more virtuous, and I say yes, you are. Thank you very much. So, and we play with it and we live in peace with it. So of course, not always. Okay, so but I think for us it was a very big moment in terms of the routine of the house. And then of course there was very minor and small, very practical things, and I will just share one. In the marriage courses, they talk about the toothbrush dilemma. That is, the ones that just use the tooth like this, toothpaste. Sorry, the toothpaste like this, and the others that go. Okay, we didn't have that problem, but we had a similar one with the doors at home. So Isabel always closed the doors, and for me the doors was to be open, because I want to know, like, no one is in the bathroom, so if the door is open I don't need to knock. And for Isabel everything should be closed, so she was the more virtuous one, and nowadays we just leave it open, but close enough, so it's not like but small dilemmas that if we don't talk, like, why are you always closing the doors, or why are you doing that? And then, oh, because I always have done that like this, and for me it doesn't make sense, and for me it's taking my peace in terms of practical, and for her was fine. For me it's fine, open. So but if we don't speak about it, this can continue to become a big problem one day. Not the door in itself, but yeah, it is.
I disagree with Duarte when he says that there is no magical formula. Okay, he's only 6 years in marriage.
Take notes here.
The magical formula, it really exists. It hasn't been discovered yet. So we have to work on it every day. So, okay, the problem of the doors, if it was with me, I took the doors off and it solved. Okay.
You cannot imagine living a marriage a lot. But I think the most important thing is that we never, how do you say, for us, it's never a possibility to go out of the marriage. It never entered our minds. So when we decided to get married, and as all big decisions in our lives, we do them through prayer. So we prayed a lot. We had, before deciding to get married, we went to the spiritual exercises for 7 days, and we were there praying and trying to discover if that was really our vocation. And when we decided for life. So even in the bad moments, when we want to slap the door and go away, we know, no, this is our marriage. It's for life.
No doors.
No door. So that possibility is never there. So the solution is, if you are mad at each other, if things are wrong, we have to make them right, and we have to discuss. Sometimes we have something that not many couples agree, but we don't want to go to bed angry with each other. And morning, it happened, but we couldn't sleep being angry with each other. So we tried to solve that. And
Yes,
I think
because usually we don't sleep, we pray before sleep, and we cannot pray if we are back to each other. So we have to turn and look in the eyes, and I think it's most important, and talk about things.
and sometimes it's very difficult because we always think we are right. So I am right and he is right. So to admit that, to ask for forgiveness is to admit that I am wrong. And that's what Duarte was saying. We have to admit, and for myself, I think when I married Gonçalo, I said I was going to make him happy. That was my vocation, was to make him happy. So when I so when it's difficult for me to ask for forgiveness, I say, is that the way I'm making him happy? Is that by being angry, and my being angry is not shouting, it's usually to be quiet and to, how do you say, to sulk. That's my way of showing I am angry. So is that and when I'm sulking, I say to myself, is that the way I'm making him happy? Or I'm thinking of myself, I'm not thinking of him. So I try to ask his forgiveness, and he does the same. So and I think that's prayer helps a lot.
Okay, and in these all the 37 years of marriage, I think we not have a crisis or something that it's very important. We discuss about things like this, but stupid things, but life is made of little things. So I think the most important, it's not to put all together in a bag. So the bag will make this história. Blow. Okay. So we need to talk, we need to work every day, as I told before. And like that, I think things flow easily.
Yeah,
But
solve the
we
little
never have
problems.
a crisis or a problem or things very important. I'm sorry, but it's our life. That's what Julia told me to tell.
Can I just add one thing that for us is really important, and even, okay, we are younger, only 6 years, and we had already several crises, and we'll have much more, and because of me. So there's no question. Like who knows Isabel, my wife, knows she's like a saint living in earth, and it's true. But one thing that for us is really important, and I really believe this is not an individual vocation, is we have a couples group that we meet every month and we share stuff, and we really believe that marriage is not an individual and a couple thing, is a public thing. So I think people that are on the outside of our marriage and see that if somehow we are not in the right path, I think they have the right, and more than the right, they should do it, they must do it, to try to intervene and help us. And so having a group that is closer to us and are more familiar with our routine and our life, for us, it's been an amazing journey in the last 4 years and a half, and that every month we are discussing those tiny things together, before the meeting, after the meeting, during the meeting, seeing how other couples are doing and making sure the bag will not blow up. So this has been, it's been a really important thing for us, just to share.
We've always been in groups also, and for everything, because I think God made, Jesus built a church. We are not Christians alone. We are Christians in the church, and that's not because of yes, it's because it's important, really. And for us, it's been also the same thing as
We have to agree with what?
even with even with the raising of our kids. We are not experts. We are just people, normal people. How do we raise our kids? How do we teach them to be good persons in life and good people? How? We don't know how. So the only thing is to love them. We give them all our love, and that's important. But we have to learn to love them right, not to spoil them with stupid love. It's really love. And also we have we discussed with many friends. We even had a group to help us raise the children in the Christian values, because really we are fighting, we are swimming against the tide here, and we live in the world, and the world has completely different values from our own and from the Christian ones. So it's very difficult alone to swim against the tides. We need our other person to be with us, the community, small communities and the big community.
See, this should resonate with many of us here, because one of the things we also say about Living Stones is it's like it has two lungs. One of them is the local communities, and we do our own thing. And then there's the international aspect, which is, you see on the walls there's all the different places that we are. And when one community is not doing well, the hope is that all the others feel it too, because if one part of us is not doing well, then none of us should be doing well. This should, like what you just said in the context of a marriage, applies in a very strange sense to us as well. And I'm also noticing this curious kind of, we're walking reversal of Father Nelson yesterday gave us 3 steps. Dialogue or dance, he says dance, which is a dialogue, between bodies, then prayer, and then love. It's interesting that almost all of you started with your passions, your love, but then we're going back up. But prayer, when the time of uncertainty begins, is an anchor. And prayer is ultimately, but also we need to dialogue, otherwise we cannot even pray. So it's quite nice that it's all part then of how you are in this world, how you are. I am aware of the time, and I want to respect the Portuguese. Yes, very German, and all this stereotype. No, but one of the things which I really did want to ask you is that we have been mentioning how many different ways there are to be in this world, and also many different things that we do, not just many different ways of being. And perhaps in our own life, we try to attempt different things and go to different places to try and understand what we are doing here. But is there something in your life that you keep returning to? It's like this home that you keep going to. It could be a theme maybe that keeps coming up in your life, or a place that you keep going, or a person that you keep going to, because there you find something familiar, something that resonates very deeply within you, because there is meaning there. I don't know, is there this one thing perhaps that you can identify? I know first you mentioned, Mariana, that then you returned here in Lisbon, and it brought up certain memories. It was familiar, So I don't know, again, this was not in the script. So is there a pattern? Can you see some kind of pattern? Because like even our image that we used for this whole formation camp is this line, which goes up and down and all this. But perhaps at one point, this line transformed can also return a bit to the beginning. So can you perhaps just, maybe it's one thing that we can listen to? So does anything come to mind?
To answer, not sure of the pattern, but so I'm from Porto, so at least once a month we are going to Porto with our children by car, usually at night. So it's always an interesting routine we have at least once a month in terms of conversation, because we have 3 hours of journey, so we can talk about everything, and so it's a routine that resonates a little bit with what you are saying. But actually we are repeating a routine now that we used to have when we date before marriage. I think we had in the first year of marriage, not sure, that every month to take time for ourselves without the children, and just to go dinner and to mass and to evaluate the month. So very Jesuit in terms of how it was, how can we evolve. You have done this that I felt not so happy about. You have done that, and it's fine. And next month will be better. So we are restarting this routine as well. And yeah, so and usually the same mass, the same. So usually we repeat the patterns in terms of schedulings, place, mass, even the priest that we. So it's, I think we are human on that, but yeah, I don't know if it answers.
No, it does, but maybe I can maybe I'm sorry, this is my curse. Yes, go ahead, go ahead.
We have like a kind of leitmotif. Is that what you mean?
Kind of like to
leitmotif,
contextualize
yeah.
it, basically, since I mentioned first the apparition of Christ to the disciples, they didn't recognize him, but he did one thing which brought it back home to them, which is the food, the breaking of the bread. So is there this thing? Maybe
Maybe
yeah.
maybe not so good as that, but for us, in our inner, we have something it's a bit difficult to explain in English, but we don't want to feel rooted. We don't want to be settled in life. We have in our marriage, in our wedding mass, we wrote a prayer, and we with lots of items, and the last one was, we don't want to settle in life to feel happy and contented with what we are and what we have. We want to search for more. We want always to search for more, because we can always do better and be better and do more. We can never say and be contented and say, well, we can sit in our sofa and be quiet and be happy. No, I think we even as old as we are now, we can always move. We can always, life can change, and it has changed in the last 2 years. Our life has changed a lot. We have moved from living in Lisbon to living in the country. We had to move a lot, but throughout our whole life, I think that's the leitmotif. We don't want to be rooted in everything. We are rooted in our love. Our marriage is and our family, but we try to search for more, and God is always asking for more from us. And so we think prayer is very important, especially because we have our ups and downs, and it's very easy to feel accommodated, to be in our sofa and think that we've done enough. It's all right. It's good. No, but I think it's very important not to do that, and to be always open to new things and new. We are always learning. We are always growing. We can never say it's enough. We've done. I think we will do that when we die. When we die, we'll stop.
Yes, the final limit. Yeah, Mariana, would you like to speak to that? Yeah.
Sim. I will think more about it when I go home, but because it's a good question. I think for me, it's more an interior place or something. I think in my life, in different moments, there is an inner experience that pops up and I recognize. So, and I understand that more, the longer I live, I'm gonna, it's difficult to explain in Portuguese than in English. It's really difficult. Sorry, I look really, but it seems like I will understand it. Every day that goes by, I understand it more. And one of the experiences that made me go in the convent was a very strong moment in my life. Then the getting out was really, really strong also. But and my vocation now, or also what I do, And I have the privilege of also this thing that I'm in love with the psychotherapy or being with um, other people and being having this privilege of also hearing their stories. Um, I also go inside a lot, and in that place and in the suffering that it's a part that we all have. I think there in the moments that I'm really lost and maybe I am feeling lonely, which is something that we all, because I live with this every day, every session, the loneliness, the emptiness, the I don't know, the pain. And for me, in that place is sometimes I feel it's like a, yeah, a presence. I don't know how to explain. It's like I have someone here. I don't need to do anything. I'm like, and this comes with something else, which is also like astonishment. I don't know. And that it can also come in little things. I don't know, looking at the tree and really, and it feels me. This is where I go back. It's really crazy, maybe, sorry, but it's where I recognize and I'm again, and I recognize all the years back. It's the same thing coming over and over, different every time.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, actually. Um, I know we are really, I think some questions maybe yeah, from the audience. Well, oh, of course, Ina has one. So yes, of course, what was shared here, I hope made you think about, of course, your own journeys, your own lives, and uh, so yes, it would be interesting to see how this might have resonated with some of you. So yes, the floor is open to questions, but there's no guarantee they will answer, right? So okay, go for it, Ina.
Um, well, I'm not asking something that resembles necessarily to my life, but I was curious about your work in the prisons because you talked about, Eduardo, you talked about vulnerability in your marriage, but I mean, I think you deal with it a lot at your work. I don't know if you are always in touch with the prisoners, but I mean, I think it's obvious. Can you just share with us how that vulnerability, um, you know?
So yeah, I work in this NGO that had the privilege to co-found with several other people, almost all of them connected with the Jesuits here in Portugal. Um, and usually, and maybe this is more my personal line and the blue one, what I feel is a huge privilege in two levels. The first one is like they are sharing their stories, their vulnerability in a place where usually they can't be vulnerable because it's a matter of survival with me. So this is the first usually line. And Gonçalo and João also have huge experience in prisons and as a volunteers as well. Um, and the second one is to put my life in perspective. So even yesterday night, I was with my wife. We have a small balcony, and we stayed with our nieces. So we were five kids at home this last night. And finally, when like silence at 9:30, we were opening a beer, and we're like, but we are so lucky. So this privilege of having others more vulnerable than us around us, uh, it really helps us to recognize the good things we have, and also the more responsibility we have. So I agree when João told like we are not expected to have or to do big things in life, and God, the unconditional love, does not ask us that, but I don't want to go against and do an argument against God, but I believe when we recognize the privilege we have the responsibility and the mission to give more and to love more and to be more available and not to be settled down. So I think what my work gives me is this constant remembering of these privileges, these lucks, these responsibilities as well. And yeah, and that's, but also sometimes gives us, and I'll be very brief, the other side of the coin on the question why. Like, for example, uh, we have one guy now working with us, like his life until 9, he was abused at home, he ran away, he got addicted in the streets, he got caught, he went to those care centers of children, he got abused again, he got out, addiction again, alcohol mainly, and crimes, and then he's in jail. Of course, and he made some crimes and he needs to be in the jail. But the first crime was committed by us as society against him. We were not able, as a society, as a community, to protect these children. So sometimes the question as well on why, not necessarily why you allow this. I know God have not done this, but also pops up. So it's always these fights internally that we also have, but usually it prompts more the privilege part and the responsibility we have more.
Thank you for that question. There's one back there, but maybe you can just come forward and. Okay. In English, you would say, I have a finger on that. Like when you want to follow on a point, I have a finger on that. If you want to say something else, I have a hand on that. Okay.
Sorry. So it's also for you, Duarte, and in the same lines you were speaking about. So yesterday, one of the things we heard in one of the conferences was that we can also discern our vocation through the vocation of others that we see and then we think of. And the motto was God writes straight through crooked lines. And I was thinking, who better to have crooked lines than the ones that are in prison? So my question is twofolded, or at least I'll try. So one is, if you've seen such stories of through the crooked lines of prison, being able to then find a path that is meaningful for that person? And if so, how did that change your way of thinking about your own vocation?
These are harder than mine.
But I'm more used to this one than but those paths, those transformation stories, they exist, they are everywhere. They don't need to be like in Portugal. We have one guy that is quite well known called Johnson. It's an amazing story and an extraordinary story of transformation. He has also founded an NGO. He now helps hundreds of kids in the neighborhood, etc., etc. And it's amazing. And Johnson is amazing. But there's lots of other extraordinary, invisible people with amazing stories of transformation that exactly, they don't need to do amazing things. They just need to be. And they are amazing people that they take care of their families, they pay their taxes, they work. This is amazing. When we look back to their past and now, what that makes to me usually, I'm not sure if I can say this word, but
Sure
I will give it a try. It makes me feel shitty. Like, how can I be such a bad husband, such a bad parent, such a bad children? And I have not passed even for 10% of these guys. So yeah, but I'm very optimistic, like but yeah, this is an opportunity for me for be better, so it's I live well with that and move on. Yeah.
A bit like Peter in the boat, no? So I can't look at it. I'm sure he felt, Oh, wow. All right. Another yes, so Jenny.
So I have a question for Mariana. Because I mean, your story resonated in me, but I'm sure that resonates for many people here in this room because I mean, many of us are in our, early 30. I mean, in the period of our life which we will call the disillusion. So you had dream or at least an idea of you, but then you realize that life is different, that you have to adapt yourself to the society, the place where you live. But in a way, what you want to do is being yourself, doesn't matter what happened. And also if you have to adapt and maybe to change your dream or your initial project. So my question will be, in terms of you in relation with your brothers and sisters and people, so do you think that what you wanted to do as a sister, as a nun, well, somehow you can achieve it in the same way or in a different way with your work as a therapist? Is it something that really help you maybe in a better way or in a way to be near to the people and to find your way to help them? Thank you. See. No, I will. Even in Portuguese. Yeah, even in Portuguese, I don't know if it will come out. So it's not a language problem. One of for me it's very interesting that to come here I had to do a very interesting thing, not had to do, but I wanted to do. I was reading the books, the praying books I wrote since 2015. And it was very interesting. Of course, I didn't read it all, but very interesting to understand that in different points of my life, the concrete way of my vocation to, or what I feel is my vocation to come out. So to make it concrete, it changes, but I only see it in the present, right? So when I entered the convent, I entered because that was it, right? I was not, I'm going to enter because one day I'm going to be a psychology out of you. It's not like that. So I think that there's a big process in my life. I understood that this of listening, so vocation, it's the listening to a voice. So there's a voice that calls, someone that listens, and then a consequence, an exterior consequence. The first part, it's an interior dimension, no? We listen inside, also the voice is inside, but there are millions of voices inside of me, millions. Which one should I listen? So I think it's like a mix of this process of going inside and understanding. We talked about wounds. For me, vocation in wound had a lot to deal with it, because a lot of my voices come from wounds that I have, and I have to recognize them. And also to understand where is that voice, and then the concrete part of it, it changes. So it changed a lot. Well, not, yeah, like the external part changes, not the internal. So now I see that I'm so happy I went in, out, Guatemala, because I'm here, and I could not be here if I didn't pass through all of those. And I need to be faithful to myself also, like you were saying. I don't know if I answer mais ou menos, more or less, see? See? Thank you for the question. Yeah.
Of course, when the silence strikes, the mic passes to me. Ça va. Are there any more questions? If not, also, how are we with time? I'm really okay. No. Okay, the timeout. No, okay, 1 sec. So yes, I think to conclude, first of all, this was really great. I mean, thank you so much. Also for being so responsive to questions that weren't planned. Okay, it's all taught. Okay, it's all part of the plan. But actually, for us, we always like to talk about it's no longer there. The red thread, the fil rouge, which I know Teresa is working in a corner to get it all together. But I think just to tie it back a bit to what we do as Living Stones, service is a big part of what we do. We go in the churches and we try to talk about the artworks in the hope that perhaps we can have a dialogue with the people that we meet who are strangers. We don't know one another. So sometimes we tend to focus a lot on what we do and what we're going to say, and we panic sometimes because we don't know what we're going to say and we're not art historians and all this. So we're not high level academics, okay? But then it happens, I think, to many of the people here who have had experience guiding in one of these churches, that ultimately what we end up saying is not really, the things perhaps that we studied or prepared for or read in our diaries, but actually the fact that we are there makes all the difference, because it surprises people. Like, these people have the time for us, they're giving their life to us. So this is a bit what you did today. You gave us a little bit of your life to us. And I really hope, like, this is the topic of this whole meeting was vocation and invitation to life. And I really hope that what you shared with us, your own life, a bit of it is an invitation for us as well, to kind of apply that to our own lives, no? To see how these lines will continue to transform. Yeah, and so anyway, so thank you all. I don't actually, for the first time, I don't know what the program is. So I allow more competent people to. I don't know if the room is here.
Well, thank you again for sharing our lives with us in such a humble and with such beauty. I think it was perfect inspiration for our lives, and thank you, Julie, for this marvelous intermediation thing. So we have a quick coffee break. Thank you, and then we'll meet like in 5 minutes here again. 50. 50? The boss says 50. Woo! 15. 15 minutes.